everybody, I'm Bill Sanders, and this is WatchArtSci, the art and science of watch collection. Today, we're going to be taking a look at Kevin's collection, and what Kevin had done, he had divided them up into three categories, into divers, chronographs, and then the third category was dress and others. So we're going to take a look at those in terms of the categories that we set up, and we're going to start off by taking a look at the divers' watches. The first one that we're going to look at is the Longines Legend, and this is a very interesting looking watch. Is that the way the timing or the numbers are set up? The outer ring of right next to the bezel on the dial is a 15, 30, 45. So one can very quickly, see very quickly what's going on with their time if they're divers. And the Longines Legend is it's a nice just sort of a nice watch. Let me put it that way. I like the looks of it. It's got a very attractive face and a very attractive bracelet on it. Now, the next one is the Oris Diver 65. And the thing about the Oris that I like, it does have an ETA movement in it. And actually, it's a Salida now. But the thing about it is, I don't care if something is, ETA, Salida, whatever, as long as they're not trying to pass them off as high cost, high horology. And they don't. The price of a brand new one is only about $1,100, and it's I like the design of it. The numbers on the Oris, I'm not sure what they remind me of. On the one hand, they remind me of something you'd see in Star Trek, sort of that old-fashioned, modern-looking kind of font. But I like it. It's a neat-looking watch, and the more I found out about it, the more I like it. It's called an Oris Caliber 733, and I've never been a big fan of Oris. I haven't had anything against them. I just never had anything greatly for them. But in this case, I do. I have here's an honest watch, which I always have something for an honest watch. Now, the next one at the bottom down there, bottom right, is the Zodiac. The Zodiac to me had always been somewhat of an enigma. Wasn't quite sure where it fit. So after taking a look at it and spending some time, the Zodiac Seawolf is well, first of all, Zodiac is part of the Fossil group, and it's got a STP-1-11 in it from Fossil, but it's really a clone of the ETA 2824. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, and especially the prices are very reasonable on the Zodiac. But the thing that I like so much about when they're doing these things, first of all, I don't think anybody's making any bones about that it's made by the Fossil manufacturer of the movement. Some people may raise their eyebrows, but they're not charging, crazy prices for these. And that I really appreciate quite a bit. And so if you're going to have a watch with what I'll call a standard movement, and you got a standard watch price, that's fine. And I like this one too. It's got very nice lumination, whatever that is called, that they have on the dial, and the Zodiac has always been an enigma to me. Back in the 70s, they had a Zodiac killer, and I happened to be doing research on detectives in in California, and they were looking for this guy then, and there was this awful double homicide of these kids who had been at their high school graduation. And the detective was telling me about how they've been finding the guy, or been trying to find the guy. And one of the things, one of the suspects they were talking to, came. He had a Zodiac watch, and every time I look at the Zodiac watch, I think of that, and that's sort of it was a while ago. But to me, it always has. There was sort of this mysterious aura to it. But I'll tell you, this is the kind of little diver I wouldn't mind having at all. All right, let's take a look now at the our next group of divers. We're still on the diver category here, and the first one is a Rolex Submariner. Uh, that in and of itself is, I mean, now that's a true luxury watch. I mean, that's the nice thing about Rolex. You get there and you get, at least as a base, if you want to call it luxury, or you're getting into some higher horology, some real attention to it. And the Rolex Sub is, I'm not saying it's the most original, but it's a good solid watch to have. I don't see anything wrong with that. Some people get all upset about it. Yeah, they shouldn't. Now, the Seiko, there's two Seikos here. The first one is the Marine Master. Great illumination on it. Really love that illumination. But when you look at the sub, they're pretty much the same in a lot of ways. But that's okay. I mean, that's not unusual. And I'm sure that the Marine Master has a much better price. The other one is a Seiko vintage diver, and I saw that thing. I've seen it somewhere before. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, and I think in one of the other reviews we had it, but it looked like a elephant sat on it and sort of squashed it. But I like it. It has almost a cushion shape to it, but it just sort of looked like it's been squished a little, but not in an ugly way, but in a interesting way. And that's important to have interesting stuff. Now, one of the most interesting things about the Seiko Vintage Diver is that was in one of my favorite movies, Apocalypse Now. Charlie Sheen wore it's called the Seiko 601, 6105. And so anyway, there this was in the movie. I thought that was sort of cool. So that's a neat watch. I just like it, that sort of smushed style that it has. Okay, the next group of watches that Kevin has are the chronographs. Here again, here's another watch that they're used for timing and racing and so forth. And a lot of collectors love their chronographs. And so let's take a look and see what kind of chronographs that Kevin has. Okay, the first group of chronographs, he has an Omega Speedmaster and a Tag Heuer. I always have trouble with pronouncing the name of the Tag Heuer. Audavia Viceroy. It's a vintage 1972. That's the name on it, reference 1163. And these are the Speedmaster and the Tag Heuer are a couple, really nice, solid examples of chronographs. Now, the other two that's in the collection, these watches are even more interesting to me. Same thing a lot. Not quite as interesting, all right, we'll put it that way. Okay, so one of them is called the Dugina Vintage Chronograph, and it's got a Valjoux 7734 in it. And it has those two cushion-shaped subdials on either side of at the bottom of the watch. And here's a watch that I just is just flat out interesting looking, and I like it. Um, the the other one is a Viva Merino, and it's got what's called a Landeron movement. I tried to find the exactly which one. It was a seven something, I believe, on the Landeron, and it is a it is a well, I guess I don't think it's in house, but Landeron is one of the used to make some very good movements, and they're very cool. So that was nice. That was a nice addition to the collection. So we have the with the chronographs. Um, they've got some really interesting stuff. Now there's more chronographs for it. Now these chronographs, you have a Seiko and a Sin, and then a what was the other one? This other one is Sakura. I've seen these in reviews before. They come up a lot, especially the Sin and the Sakura. Love the looks of that Sakura with the orange partial on the bezel, and the orange big second hand on that. I really like the looks of that. The Sin, another good looking, really good looking Sin with its the sort of the dark, the black, and then they use instead of having white or something, they use this very subtle green. Now that's a luminous, I know, and but still it's cool. And of course, the Seiko chronograph automatic at the top is a classy looking watch. Um, Again, the Seiko and the Sin both have three subdials, and the Sakura has two. But you know, it's just they're all different. The thing about having a collection of chronographs, you don't want to have them all the same. And those three and or actually I guess a total of seven. There's a good variety. That's what makes any collection uh, far more interesting. Okay, so let's see what we got next. Okay, here we have the the dress watches. That's from an old Arrow shirt ad. And dress watches, for most of the collection I've seen, is sort of the part that probably uh, could use a little work. So let's take a look and see what we have here. Now, just let me say this as an overview. Of these three watches, Tissot, the Farber, and the Tudor, I think the only one that would possibly pass as a dress watch is a Tissot Visodate. And you look at that, and it's got sort of the plain Calatrava look to it. And anyhow, it just and it's a very good example of that too. I was looking around at some of the vintage stuff. Man, I tell you, they got some of them with a face all crummied up, they corroded, and you name it. And people act, or the seller apparently acts, oh, that's okay. It's not okay. And I think that Kevin here has a great example of a Tissot Visodate. Now, the problem is that I'm pretty sure that's the vintage one. And the reason I say the problem with that is I was looking at some Tissot Visodates. Man, those things are the brand new ones. They sort of there are a lot of companies doing that. They're when they run out of ideas, they go back and start bringing back vintage ones again. Oh, this one in particular, I thought, well, I'll take a look at it. It was very well priced. It's about $600, and this is for a brand new one. And the Tissot Visodate is $695 new. It has a ETA 2836-2, and it's from the the Swatch scoop. Now, if it's a vintage, and it appears to be a very well preserved vintage, it's got a 783 or 784 Tissot movement, and so that's that makes it even more interesting. Okay, but either way, I have been very about Tissot, but when and they advertise the brand new ones, they have an advertised price of $695, and they tell you what's in it. Okay, that's a good thing, and I think for a dress watch, that'll make it as a dress watch without a problem. I think I don't know what else other kind it would be. Okay, now here the next two, the one that I found the most interesting was the Farber. Not because it's more interesting in and of itself, I knew the least about it. So I was reading up on it and finding out about Farber. Now this one is called the Farber Hopewell, and it has a 28 ETA 2824 in it, and I was looking at the dials from a close up, and they have raised numbers on it. I always thought that looked so cool. There's a certain quality to it that it looks like a office clock, and but a very attractive office clock, and one that I think would be the perfect. Sometimes they call them tool watches. I call them office watches. Something you wear in the office every day, and you just want to get things done on time. And boy, that's to me it's a heck of a good buy. Their advertised price, brand new, is $10.75. Now that's a heck of a good deal. They're a British company, but they're made in Switzerland. And it's funny because they talk about how tough their cases are on the Farbers, and the other one of the other major British watchmakers, Bremont, the same thing. And so that's sort of cool. I guess it's rough being a Brit, so they have tough tough cases for you. Okay, the final one is a Tudor Black Bay, and um, it's a it's a newer one, and it has an ETA movement, but it was produced after they began putting in the in-house movements. And I think what they did, they wanted to have something that was very well priced. The point here is that when I was looking at the prices, very reasonable. They're about between right around $2,000-ish, and I think they're 36 millimeter. And they're just I guess you just call it a cool standard watch. Now, I really never saw Tudors being Rolex wannabes. I saw them having sort of their own character and just sort of like just a we're Tudor, yeah, they're Rolex, so what? And but anyway, so for relatively good price, I think anything with an ETA over $1,000 is a little problematic, but that's me. Uh, cool watch, cool size, cool collection. Anyhow, so again, I would love to hear what you have to say. What do you think that where Kevin ought to go? I have my own idea. I think that a lot of these watches are just sort of below the border. Okay, it's got the Rolex is north of the border of where you start getting into high horology, but I think a lot more of these could because they've got a lot of watches, and the the idea that it's more important to have more than better. I don't think so. I think that the one way to look at this is that you've got some really good watches here. Your Seikos are they're all in house. Your Rolex, And if you could just start nudging it the other way. The other thing too, I think, you got a good eye for these vintage watches. My God, I think you can find some really good vintage deals. By the way, here's something I found out. I was looking at somebody had said, oh, the price of gold has become higher than the price of platinum. And the reason that that is important, of course, is that if you're looking in the vintage thing, you find anything with gold in it, get it. This is my platinum chronometre Souverain, and it's made of platinum. So, oh rats! I got the cheap one. So, but it's the first time I think ever that gold was more than platinum. Who knows what's going to happen next? All right, let's hear your suggestions. Let's hear your comments, and be sure, by the way, if you have your own collection, if you get them, let's say if you want to have them reviewed, send them to me to my email address at williebegood@atd.net, and get them in before Wednesday, and you'll be eligible for the drawing we're having Friday for 3 watches, and you could be, we're going to have one winner, but they can choose from a set of 3 watches as long as they're subscribers who have a collection, who sent in their collection. Okay, so until next week, we'll see you. This is Bill Sanders for WatchArtSci, the art and science of watch collection.